All right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Madhouse, 1974. I'm giving it 5 stars. 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was all right. I was disappointed. There's some plot holes in this one. For instance, they keep saying Vincent Price was in these fictitious Dr. Death movies, but they keep recycling some old AIP movies that have nothing to do with Dr. Death. And then it doesn't explain how he just came out of the fire from the movie screen and appeared magically. We don't know how he survived the fire, how he got out of that room there with the police watching the door. I don't know if that's sloppy editing or just to keep us on our toes guessing there. All right. The movie poster looks really cool. It says, if stark terror were ecstasy, living here would be sheer bliss. I guess they're talking about Peter Cushing's house with the spider lady in the basement. The ending was kind of a ripoff on Sunset Boulevard, I think. This movie has a lot of elements of Sunset Boulevard. You know, the crazy old actor. But in this case, it's got two crazy old actors. So I don't know what to make of this. I'm in financial deep doo-doo right now. My savings account is down to zero. This is the moment that I feared would happen around Christmas time. Fortunately, I was allowed more time to sort of delay the inevitable doom. I'm probably like 50% of Americans have got zero savings, and I'm about $600 in debt on my credit card, which isn't too bad. Most people have about 8,000 on their credit card and zero savings. So I don't have an emergency fund right now. I'm living off my credit card, and I'm waiting for my bonus on when is it? Wednesday of next week? Yeah. Wednesday of next week? No. Wednesday, 2 weeks. Wednesday of the following week from next week. It better be a good bonus. All right, Madhouse, also known as The Revenge of Dr. Death, is a 1974 horror film directed by Jim Clark. For Amicus Productions in association with American International Pictures. So this is going to be another AIP flick. The film, which is a British U.S. co-production, stars Vincent Price, Natasha Pine, Peter Cushing, Robert Quarry, Adrienne Corey, and Linda Hayden. Oh, wow. Linda Hayden is beautiful. I want to see her in some sex comedies. The Blondie. Why did she have to die? She doesn't get naked, but I'm going to look up Linda Hayden when I get off this movie review. Linda Hayden is my new favorite actress. The film was based on the 1969 novel Devil Day by Angus Hall. Paul Toombs is a successful horror actor whose trademark role is Dr. Death, a skull-faced serial killer during a party in Hollywood, marking his fifth Dr. Death film, which we never see. Paul announces his engagement to Ellen Mason, who gives him an engraved watch as an engagement gift. So you got a trophy bride giving an engraved watch. And she ends up getting her head chopped off. There's a little bit of gore, not too much. Like heads getting chopped off, necks getting poked with pitchforks and something else. I think the blondie gets stabbed in the neck. There's also some plot twists going towards the end. We don't know what the heck is going on with this. Too many plot holes. And then the ending sort of explains everything except for how Vincent Price gets out of the fire. All right. However, adult film producer Oliver Quayle, played by Robert Quarry, reveals to Paul that Ellen previously performed in his movies and had also slept with him. Distraught at Paul's angry reaction, Ellen returns to her room, where a masked man in a Dr. Death's costume approaches her with a knife. An apologetic Paul enters the room shortly after, only to find her severed head to fall from her shoulders when he touches her. That was kind of a neat trick. Although he is acquitted, Paul isn't sure whether he is the killer. His career is destroyed as he spends several years in a mental hospital. The story was decent. It wasn't edited properly. 12 years later, Paul is called to London by his friend, screenwriter Herbert Flay, who is partnered with Quayle to produce a Dr. Death television series for the BBC. While on the cruise en route to England, Paul encounters a persistent young actress, Elizabeth Peters, who steals his watch and follows him through London and eventually to Flay's house. In the spider-infested basement, Paul discovers Faye Carstairs, Flay's wife, and a former Dr. Death co-star who was driven mad after being disfigured in a car accident. She's got a very ugly looking, bald-headed kind of wig going, bald-headed wig. All right. Outside Flay's house, Elizabeth sees the costume figure stalking the grounds. Believing it to be Paul, she approaches him and she is killed with a pitchfork. When her body is discovered, Scotland Yard suspects Paul as the killing resembles a scene from one of the Dr. Death films. All right. So we've already got a ripoff on Theater of Blood. The art imitates reality here. Unimpressed to find that Quayle has given Dr. Death a female assistant for the series, which he never had in films, Paul berates his co-star on set. She's soon found hanged by her hair, resembling another Dr. Death scene. Scotland Yard questions Paul, but finds no conclusive evidence. So the Keystone Cops have no idea what's going on. And neither do we. Paul is also harassed by Elizabeth's parents, who have found the watch she had stolen, and they threaten to deliver the watch to the police unless he pays a ransom. However, the killer lures the parents into the house, and he impales them both with a broadsword. On set, the series director is crushed by a descending bed canopy in a trap intended for Paul. Later, Paul is chased through the studio by the killer while on the way to an interview. Julia Wilson, Quayle's public relationship chief in a super hot 70s outfit, discovers a contract in his files, but she is murdered by the killer. Paul discovers her body in a replication of Ellen's death, seated in front of her dressing table. A distraught Paul carries her body to the set, turns on the camera, and sets the place ablaze. Believing Paul to have died in the fire, Flay signs a contract to take his place as Dr. Death. Later, he watches the reel of the film from Paul's death in his home, only to see Paul seemingly walk out of the screen, burned but alive. When Paul demands to know why Flay wishes to destroy him, Flay rages that he had written the Dr. Death role for himself, but he was passed over in favor of Paul. He murdered Ellen to frame Paul in the hopes of destroying his career, but he was still not given the role. He then reveals that the contract that Julia had discovered stipulated that if Paul died, Flay would take over the role by right. The two struggle in the basement where Faye enters and she stabs Flay in the back. Wow, she stabbed her husband in the back. Isn't that nice? He falls into a tank of spiders and they devour his flesh. Paul applies makeup to his burnt scar face, now looking similar to Flay, and he sits down to dinner with Faye. The title credits mention special participation by Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff, who had died in 1967 and 1969. Respectively, the film included scenes in which they had appeared with Vincent Price from previous AIP films, Basil Rathbone from Tales of Terror, terrible film, Karloff from The Raven, Tales of Terror is 1962, and Karloff's The Raven is 1963, which Adrian told me to avoid The Raven, but I added it to my list. Anyway, other AIP films starring Price that had scenes played in the film include The Haunted Palace, The Pit and the Pendulum, which is a great flick, Scream and Scream Again, another great flick, and House of Usher. I have not seen the Haunted Palace, The Raven, or House of Usher. American International Pictures purchased the rights to Angus Hall's novel Devil Day in 1970, although Robert Fuest was originally named as director. In 1973, Jim Clark was signed to direct. Bad decision. More known for his editing, this ended up being Clark's fourth and final feature film as a director. That's ironic. He's known for his editing, but he couldn't cobble together a sensible film. Filming began at London's Twickenham Studios. In his autobiography, Clark referred to the film as stillborn, reflecting that the edits imposed by Milton Subotsky was the final nail of the coffin of a film that had a script worked on by Ken Levison during the actual production because of its quality. All right. So Clark is saying that the edits were imposed on him by Milton Subotsky. This was a complaint that the Italian director had against the producers of Caligula. The director is supposed to edit the film, not the Milton Subotsky. It was the last film to feature Price for American International, as his contract was not renewed. The feeling was mutual, as he once referred to Arkoff and his colleagues as those dingling suckers. The film opened in Los Angeles in December 1974. The film performed considerably less well at the box office than other horror movies Price had made for AIP, and Samuel Z. Arkoff considered it marked the end of the horror cycle, which is unfortunate. The Monthly Film Bulletin wrote, "The tale of an actor's revenge exacted by Hammer veteran Peter Cushing on AIP stalwart Vincent Price. Madhouse borrows a trick from last year's Theater Blood, allowing Price's Baroque, hypersensitive acting style to become the subject of the film, and pusillanimously fritters it away, where Theater Blood employed a proper rhetorical style to give the Price rhetoric room to flower in grandiloquent self-parody. Madhouse descends to a coy showbiz in joking. Michael Parkinson gets to chair a chat show with Dr. Death, and AIP get to run through clips from just about all of the Corman Poe movies as highlights from the Doctor's own screen canon, inevitably arriving at the duel of the masters from The Raven. Madhouse finds that particular joke rather hard to cap. Its equivalent scene, a quite fitting final conceit, in which Price, having stolen Cushing's thunder, sets about stealing his appearance in order to return to the screen, is carried out with little invention or panic. Yeah, that ending wasn't very convincing, I have to admit. Author and film critic Leonard Maltin awarded the film 3 out of 4 stars, calling it good, if somewhat unimaginative. Time Out gave the film a mostly positive review, noting its tendency to go over the top, but commended the film's interweaving of Price's character tunes with the actor's actual film career, and reasonably witty in its use of interpenetrating fantasies born of the Dream Factory. Dennis Schwartz from Oz's World Movie Reviews awarded the film a grade B-, calling it cheesy but enjoyable. TV Guide awarded the film 1 out of 5 stars, writing, "With its behind-the-scenes setting and focus on an aging star whose glory days are behind him, this could have been a wonderful elegy to the twilight of Price's long career. Unfortunately, the script and direction simply aren't up to the task, and the film becomes an inferior spin-off of Dr. Five's series. Not even the interaction between Price and Cushing, 2 very different actors, manages to generate much interest, leaving the clips from Price's Corman AIP films the best part of the movie." John Stanley wrote, "Sleazy spooker filmed in London about a hammy actor, Vincent Price, suspected of committing gore murders during the filming of a TV series. The climax is so unbelievable and forced, even horror fans will wonder what's happening, made by the kind of mentality that thinks the sight of a spider is the height of horror. Eek." Well, nobody's in the chat room. Karate Man wanted the IMDb page of this Power Rangers actor who did one actual martial arts movie with him as a star, and then 464 other titles, mostly Power Rangers stuff and cartoons, I think. So I asked him, okay, You want me to add these titles because it's going to take me a couple weeks, and I'm trying to do George Kennedy right now. Trying and I think I'm up to the 1980s with George Kennedy. I went through three decades practically. I'm still working on it. And he said, "No, I just wanted you to look at it like I'm supposed to be amazed that somebody had 465 credits on IMDb." There's one guy who's got over 1,000, so I don't know why Karate Man gets all excited about this stuff. Okay. Okay. Madhouse, 1974, rated PG, 1 hour, 29 minutes, gets a 6.2 out of 10. So my rating is pretty close to the average, a little bit lower. 4,700 ratings. Oh, man. More like this: Theater Blood, Dr. Phibes Rises Again, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, and Scream Again. All great movies. Highly recommended. The film's opening credits include special participation by Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff. Both these actors were long since dead, having died in the late 60s. Rathbone in 67 and Karloff in 69. However, they appear in this film in clips from real films they had each starred in with Vincent Price. Rathbone's in Tales of Terror, terrible movie, and Karloff in The Raven, 1963. Another movie that Adrian doesn't recommend, but I added it anyway. Julia's dead body is breathing heavily after Paul Toombs discovers her. We like Julie on this channel. Paul Toombs, Miss Peters. As they say in the horror movies, you will come to a bad end. With special participation by Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone. At the time of the film's theatrical release in 1974, both of these actors had been dead since 1967 and 1969, respectively, and their special participation was actually limited to appearing in this film in clips from real films that they had each starred in with Vincent Price, none of which were related to Dr. Death. Karloff in The Raven, 1963, and Rathbone in Tales of Terror, 1962. This was featured in the Horror Hall of Fame, 1974. Soundtracks, When Day Is Done, performed by Vincent Price. So I've got to put Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone in the credits, and then I'll put Vincent Price. I'll give him credit for music by. All right. Humanoid of Flesh gives this movie a higher rating than I do. So we'll contrast somebody else's rating with mine, somebody who liked it better. Humanoid of Flesh gives this movie a 7 out of 10, and he titles his IMDb review, Okay, old-fashioned horror film. Following the grisly murder of his fiancée, Hollywood film star Paul Toombs, Vincent Price, withdraws into his own world. Sometime later, he is persuaded by an old actor friend, Peter Cushing, to revive his famous horror role as Dr. Death. Life soon becomes a living nightmare for Toombs when friends and colleagues are brutally murdered one by one. Madhouse's rather cheaply made horror film that manages to create only a little bit of suspense. The story, which is based on the novel Devil Day by Angus Hall, is not very intriguing. Also, I thought the story was decent. It just wasn't executed well. Director Jim Clark uses clips from old Roger Corman horror films featuring Vincent Price as reenactments of the murders. Still, the film is slightly entertaining And it's nice to see two horror veterans, Vincent Price and Peter Cushing, together. Check it out, 7 out of 10. So there you have it. Madhouse, 1974. Let's go down the list because we forgot to do. We were so irritated with Hot Shots Part Douche that we forgot to go down the list. And nobody was in the chat room to remind me. I only got like 20 comments from Karate Man, ex post facto. All right. First on the list is Fog Island, 1945. Second on the list is Demolition Man, 1993. And third on the list is A Man Called Horse, 1970. I have no idea where that came from, but I'm suspecting it might be Adrian. I don't know. Maybe he can tell me if he recommend A Man Called Horse, because I have no idea why this is on my list. I think it may have had to do with a politically correct comment that I made about cowboys and Indians. And it may have been to Adrian, and then Adrian mentioned this one as being politically correct. I think that's what happened. I'm trying to jog my memory here. A Man Called Horse. All right. A Man Called Horse becomes an Indian warrior in the most electrifying ritual ever seen. Well, that remains to be seen. Yeah, so I got to go to the grocery store. I can't get soda in San Francisco because there's a tax on soda here, similar to San Jose. So I got to go to Daly City and get soda and get some mouthwash and some, what do you call it? There's some other chemical that I use to wash my mouth out. Not that it helps. I got missing tooth here that I've got to get a crown for next month. It's going to cost me $900. Hopefully I still have money in my account. That's what I told the comely young dental office Chinese girl. She likes to bend over and show me her small breasts. I guess that's a way of getting me to pay her thousands of dollars for dental bills. Anyways, she's a nice lady. I like her. She's the reason why I keep going back there. Honestly. And it was the reason why I went to the local Safeway here, because there was another Chinese gal who I bumped into at the 7th Avenue Safeway. She quit Safeway and now she's pursuing her master's, but she's born again Christian. She's not a Catholic. So I couldn't convert her or convince her to come to my church. That was a real bummer. Anyways, yeah. I'm gonna go take care of some grocery shopping now. Then maybe I'll catch a little bit of the Fog Island and cook up a steak. Get me some breakfast. I'm about to pig out right now. Laters.